are working on it. I've been trying to get it colder, but it's just such a big room. They brought heaters in, but they're about, yay big. I don't know how much good they're going to do. So apologies for that, but hey, it'll at least keep us awake after lunch, hopefully. So I don't think it'll be a problem, though, because what we have coming up next, Saket Modi, CEO and founder of Safe Security, probably needs no introduction to many of you. Saket is going to talk about an AI-fueled version of third-party risk management. So we've been talking a lot about using AI and agentic AI. Well, you'll see some of that and in what Saket's about to show. And so I just think, again, leaning into how are we using technology to further cyber risk management and risk management generally is really important. So everything that we can do here and leverage to our advantage in dealing with this environment that we live in is really critical. So, Saket, without further ado, I'll bring you up and let you take it away.
Thank you, Todd. All right. Welcome everybody to the FAIR conference in Europe. Each year the size gets bigger, and that's something to celebrate. I want to start with a place where a lot of you guys might have very, very strong opinions on. The big thing I want to talk to you about is why does FAIR not work? We have 65 people in this room. There are 6 million cybersecurity professionals. What we are missing here is 5,999,940 risk professionals, cybersecurity professionals. That's the only small count which is not in this room. If you think about the job of the 6 million people who work in cybersecurity, what's the only job they have? Do whatever you can to reduce the risk. This is what everybody's job is. But if you ask them a simple question, how much risk did we reduce last week, last month, last year? How many of those 6 million people you think will be able to answer? 0.00001%. This is the people sitting here. Now, one way to look at it is, we are the elite. We are the ones, the chosen ones who really know the answer. And we know something special that the rest of the industry doesn't know. It's the best kept secret. A lot of secrets which only go to the elite club. But the other way to look at it also can be that the other people are not interested. They don't care about it. They're like, yeah, I'm doing my job. I know I'm reducing risk. Who cares how much, etc., etc. Nobody will agree to that, to say that, look, I don't need to know. But really, I don't need to know. I'm good. I'm just doing that. There's another way to look at it. If you think about the overall cybersecurity industry, it's around $214 billion, growing at 14% year over year. This is the number from Gartner of the distribution of the $214 billion. And it gives a very clear breakdown of where all the money is being spent, right? Now, let's do a tabletop activity here, an exercise between all of us. Let's assume that we all are part of a company, and we're doing an analysis of our budget. And let's assume for a second, we have $214 billion of budget. Once we have that budget, can I say, just in a ballpark, this is the total industry of how the spend is happening as on day to day. This will be a good proxy to understand how people are spending money, and there's good rough distribution of where we should allocate our money also, right? This is good as a proxy, but why should we give that degree of importance to every single line item? What happens if we slightly change things? If we take all of $214 billion and go to one line item, just application security. And it will definitely reduce risk. There's a lot of application security risk, right? But what does that mean, right? Or something else. What happens if we put all the money on infrastructure security, right? Of course, I'm taking it to the extreme, and nobody does that. Because of course, you need to spray and pray, which is what most of the industry is doing today. But this, if you just start talking about a very simple concept on why did you allocate what you allocated to a line item in your budget suite? A very, very, very simple question. 99% of the CISOs don't have an answer to that. They have an answer based on, oh, you see all the gray hair? That is the reason I know where it needs to go to spend. I spoke on a WhatsApp group with the elite CISOs, and they are the ones who told me where we should be doing things. Or, do you not realize these big hacks which are happening on the network? So this year, the big focus is network security, zero trust, multi-factor authentication, whatever. The new buzzword with very how things are. It's very funny, depending on which cybersecurity vendor you talk to. What is the most important thing right now in cybersecurity changes at the very same time. Walk on the RFA shop floor, ask any vendor, what is the most important thing CISO should look at right now? Guess what will be a common answer? Whatever the hell that vendor is working on. It's just the reality. But what is in reality important? It's almost like walking on an aisle with 10 towers, in the case of RSA, almost 600 vendors which were showcasing there. So 600 people selling medicines, and you as a person who wants to get, who wants to get back to good health, going and asking which medicine should I take? And everybody's like, my medicine is the best medicine and you really, really, really need it. I don't know where you are, who you are, where you're coming from, what your disease is, but my medicine is the best medicine that you really, really need to take. That is the unfortunate reality of the entire cybersecurity industry. And what is missing in this table, if you think about it, right? What is really missing? A very simple question, so what? So what if I did not invest X or I over-invested Y in a particular line item? What changes? A very simple question. This is what that table ideally should look like. In front of every single dollar item that is spent on cybersecurity, there should be a very, very simple table of saying, hey, what's the amount of likelihood and what's the amount of loss magnitude that something reduces? And by the way, every control will not reduce likelihood and loss magnitude. It's like if you drive a car, having good pair of brakes reduces the likelihood of a crash, does not reduce the loss magnitude or the impact. But having seat belts or having an airbag reduces the impact. Because if you're wearing seatbelt and there is a crash, your impact goes down. If there are airbags, the impact goes down. So there will be controls, and if we just ask a very, very, very simple question, every single time, because every single company is doing budgeting, and a very simple fundamental question of saying, can you just ask, so what? Why are we spending this? Simon Sinek has been shouting at the top of his voice for the last 2 decades. Start with the why. And I don't know why the whole security industry doesn't seem to get it. Because we just don't ask the why. The only question that 600 vendors at the RSA shop floor or 4,000 funded security companies out there is not able to answer, why do you really need them? Asking simple question, and I bet if anybody gives you an objective answer, the answer is always, oh, threats are going up. Ransomware is going up. It's a very scary market. Well, it is a scary market for sure because cost of cybercrime keeps going up. But then why are you important? Why should I buy you? Oh, because Gartner said that. You're saying some doctors from there said something is good without knowing my own body, and I'm supposed to trust that and take that medicine? Doesn't sound right. That's not what we do for physical health. Why are we doing that for cyber health? So if you see, this is a simple thing, and I have so many CISOs, and we work with the largest companies on the planet today. This becomes a de facto expectation. I have CISOs who have now given a very, very clear instruction to their entire team that do not talk to me about a new project till the time you can tell me what does it impact the likelihood or / and the loss magnitude. And if the answer is it doesn't impact either, why are you wasting my time? Because this is the only thing that is the job of the 6 million people and the $214 billion that is spent on cybersecurity for the longest time. And this is not being answered. Now, If I did the same, remember that table where if I put all the money on application security, so with the same amount of money, just a simulation of course, and back up the envelope, suppose this is reducing my risk by 14% likelihood, 210% loss magnitude, this can be for a ransomware scenario, or data exploitation or whatever, and I put a lot of money here, it doesn't really reduce a lot of my likelihood because there is one control which is there. So there is clearly no ROI. The same thing if I do it for something else, it won't be there. Again, these are simple simulations you run from FAIR. Now this is something which becomes valuable. Now why did I give you all of this example? Because probably half the room already knows this and you already use it. So why did I give you this example? Just one reason. If you see what we've done, we've gone ahead and we've enabled data-backed decision making. Everybody wants data-backed decision making. Will there be anybody who you can talk to who would say, I don't want to make better decisions? How do you make better decisions? Data, right? The more the data, generally the decisions can be better. I'm not saying it always correlates to better stuff because there's always instinct, and of course you want to add that to the equation also. But data needs to be one of the important data points that you take to make decisions. Now, why did I say all of this? I gave you one use case on how do you apply CRQ is just to ask you a simple question. Everything that I just did as a use case, what did I do here? Did I do cyber risk quantification? How many of you guys think this table or this table or this table that I got to use cyber risk or this cyber risk quantification? Can I see hands? Cyber risk quantification? I mean, this is cyber risk quantification, so I'm pretty sure most of you will agree. I'm quantifying the likelihood and impact and trying to talk about how you're reducing the risk. Pretty straightforward. But that is the biggest problem. The problem is that I did not do CRQ. I made decisions better where CRQ was a medium. It was a means to get there. And the reason I'm saying this to you is that, and I think formally I want to call this as the curse of CRQ. I think the biggest disservice that this community has done to itself is you've tattooed the wrong headline. It's like Apple is saying, not that we've created the most incredible phones on the planet, and if Martin Luther King Jr. or Mahatma Gandhi or Albert Einstein would use a phone, it would be an iPhone. That is what Apple says. Instead of that, if Apple had a tattoo which says, highest RAM phone, highest memory phone, highest definition screen phone, that is the fundamental difference. Yes, they have the highest definition screen. Yes, they have the highest RAM. Yes, they have, not always, but most times they have the highest RAM. Yes, they have the highest memory. But those are means to getting to an insanely great experience of what you get as an output from the phone. And that truly is a feeling of saying that, look, I can do so much more. And the greatest in the world, if they were using a system, they would use a Mac. They would use an iPhone. And that's what I call is the curse of CRQ. Because when you go and talk to the rest of the 99.99999% people, say, do you want to do CRQ? I'm going to do a CRQ conference. They're like, yeah, who cares about CRQ? I know my numbers. I already know red, amber, green. You'll probably get me a 20 shades of red, 20 shades of amber, 20 shades of, who cares about that? But if you have somebody, do you need better decision making? I can make sure that the budget we're spending is being optimized in the right way. Whatever the use case is, that is a better seller. So my first big takeaway is let's not call our space CRQ. It is a very, very, very big disservice that we are doing to ourselves because we're taking ourselves and actually not glorifying what we really can do. For example, one use case is data-backed decision making. Quantification is a means to do a lot of things. I gave you one example of more data-backed, more outcome-based budgeting which is out there. And by the way, there's not just one, there's a lot of stuff that FAIR enables you with. Because we have a platform and we see this across the customers, starting to understand the risk and communicate it in business terms, operationally prioritizing your treatment plans, strategic treatment This is the third use case which I showed you when you talk about the ROI. When you talk about, how do you meet the reporting requirements, whether it's a 10K or an 8K filing to the SEC, whether it's managing third party, and we'll more double click into that in the next section, benchmarking your program with your peers, because that is where you are apples to apples. You can't take red, amber, green, and ABC and then compare them with each other. And then a lot of times even optimizing cyber insurance in the right way possible. These are some examples of use cases, and there are more. But this is what you have to say we're doing, not CLQ. CLQ is the engine. This is a Ferrari. This is what people want, because that is delivering to you the outcome and experience which is out there. So that's one big learning. I hope all of you get there and we make that happen. The second thing is, I think FAIR is stuck on saying we only do a few scenarios and for our own risk, and that's about it. If you think about the beauty of FAIR, it's built on first principles. When you build something on first principles, it doesn't just apply to where you are. It's almost like gravity. It doesn't matter whether you're in America, in Europe, in Australia, in any country, gravity is the same, because that is first principles of how two objects of mass work with each other. That's just how physics works. The beauty of FAIR, it's first principles of how do you look at risk. And if you apply that, that should be across your first party and third party risk. So that is the big thing. What I want to show you right now, because talking on slides is good, but I want to show you what that means and what that looks like. The same exact thing. If FAIR enables you to model third party or first party, because we've been doing that forever, and say, hey, what's my data exploitation risk across these assets with this particular type of attack vector or attacker, and with this kind of initial attack method. That's a standard definition of a risk scenario. Now, you can apply the same for a third party. And the good part is there's enough data to say what kind of scenarios are there for third party. So, third party risk management has also been equally broken, if not more, as first party risk management. Anybody in this room thinks they've solved third party risk management? Can I see hands? Anybody thinks that they've solved third party risk management? See? It's a $5 billion industry, and I've still to come across one CISO or one security team which can say, hey, I've really solved third party risk management. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. And it's spending a lot of money, and it's not being solved. And you know what's the number one frustration of CISOs? All the money spent is almost useless for a simple reason that you don't know what and how things are going towards, because you're not really, forget about reducing, but even understanding the risk of third parties. Yes, you send out questionnaires, the old way of doing things. Send out questionnaires, get them to answer, which is very painful for the vendor, by the way, on the other side, and they will answer 100, 200 questions, or give you a software report, or you have people going through it manually one by one, and then on the other side, you go ahead and get these very quick, but very, very shallow outside-in assessment tools, which will give you a proxy of risk, a scorecard of ABCDEF, or a score between 300 and 700, doesn't really mean anything. What's the meaning of a B or a C? Oh, I have the answer. You need to read the white paper. Like, come on, if that's what FAIR said every time with the analysis, oh, I know the risk is 2.873. What is that? Oh, you have to read a white paper. That's not what FAIR does. FAIR simplifies. Says, for any risk scenario, here's the likelihood in an analyzed way, and if it occurs, here's the estimated impact, the min max most likely it occurs. Now that's science. That's talking like somebody who knows what they're talking about, and fully backed with data. Most of the third-party risk management software have not been doing that. And it's been very, 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 very siloed and very, very clunky. That was the old way of doing it. Very, very reactive, very, very manual, very, very slow. It was very control-based. Oh, do you have two-factor authentication? That has to be a question in the questionnaire which is out there. It's not that it cannot be found out from the outside, because obviously you don't have access from the outside. Very fragmented, very limited coverage. There's a new way in which you can look at things, and that's where, how do you make it risk-based, which is scalable, which is autonomous, and one unified platform. So why don't we see what it looks like, and it'll give you a good perspective. So I'm going to go inside a third party. So 1 second. So So let me go inside. Perfect. So I'm going to go inside and I'll come back to the whole thing. I think the light mode would be better. So let's see if we can see this better. Yeah, perfect. So here's the thing. When you talk about a third party, you can actually go ahead and talk about aggregation of risk scenarios in the same way as there. So what we've done, for example, in space, is in order to solve, because the reality is, and I always say this is the curse of intelligence, when a lot of very intelligent people come together, they create a very intelligent solution which by design disselects majority of the work. There is a higher intelligence which knows how to make products dumber, and that is the genius of the iPhone. That's the genius of any great product which is out there. And what does that mean, right? Because if you talk about weak likelihood, loss magnitude, trust me when I say this, we've already lost at least, if not more, but at least 90% of the world which is out there. So there is a way to simplify that into a simple score. This should be backed by real foundational models like the FAIR model which is there for risk management. So we still give you a simple score because a lot of companies wanted to see a simple score. And what we did, we took likelihood 0 and 100, converted that into a score of 0 to 5. That's easy. There's no rocket science, and you're not adding any weights or biases there. Now, in order to come up with the aggregated likelihood, it actually comes from 3 scenarios. And these 3 scenarios in our research of more than 10,000 third-party breaches that we saw over the last decade were the 3 most popular. More than 99% of third-party breaches happen because of these 3 scenarios. It's either data exfiltration, it's either ransomware without data exfiltration, and the third piece is system outage. These are the 3 biggest issues with third parties, which I'm sure most of you will agree on. Now, how do I get the likelihood of this? The good old fair way. So if you talk about 8%, I click here, go inside, it's the old way of looking at threat and frequency, susceptibility, where does threat and frequency come from threat intelligence, where does susceptibility come from? This comes from the questionnaire that they are filling in, or this comes from the actual outside-in assessment, which is still controls risk. Controls are not the enemy, but they are the inputs into risk. In 99% of Fortune 500 companies that I've spoken to, that layer which translates controls into risk is missing. Even if they are doing risk, that's happening subjectively in a different silo, while the controls are happening in the GRC tool, and then they're talking about how many systems have 2FA or don't have 2FA, blah, blah, blah. Why are you talking about that? Talk about risk, because that is the ultimate job of any risk leader in a company. So still applying FAIR, but doing that in a simple way so somebody who knows FAIR can still see this and understand this. If somebody who doesn't know FAIR goes back to all third parties and sees a very, very simple, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to enable a distinct score. So, score here, perfect. So you see these scores which is here, so you're able to go ahead and then see a simple score, although the score for each third party is actually coming from FAIR. So again, there's a way to apply FAIR in the right way, and you can see that inside. The last section which I want to cover is AI, because I'll tell you a revelation, which probably will be the first time that somebody's spoken about this in a decade of FAIR conferences which are out there. AI is a hype, but you know who is the OG insider with AI? It was actually FAIR. AI has always been inside FAIR. We just didn't see closely enough. And that's the fun part of it, if you think about it, right? That what is AI, right? You take a lot of data, you put weights around the data, like it says the new GPT model, GPT-4, has 1 trillion parameters. What are those trillion parameters? You're tuning those parameters based on internet data and a lot of data which is available. And based on all of that data, you basically go ahead and create intelligence responses. So if you think about the AI inside FAIR, it has always existed. Now, what do I mean by that? How do you get data with automation and add intelligence to that? That is exactly what we've been pioneering. This, by the way, is on the page on our website. In order to guess the threat event frequency, the susceptibility, which was always guessed in the past, That is what State does to go ahead and automate and put in this telemetry. So today, the largest companies in the world, over 100 APIs that we've got. They are the ones who go ahead. All of these are APIs that you can see. It's live on our website. You can go and you can even see these small videos. It actually shows how to integrate one product into Fair, into Safe, etc., etc. So you get the list of all the integrations. That's the automation side of things. But they're not enough. Automation is still a story of the past. The future is using all of this data with agents and building AI agents. So if you go to our website, go to platform and see all agents, we release one new GenAI agent every Monday. And we've been doing it for months now, and we're trying to do it for the next few years. And you want to see each agent, you can actually go. These are each agent. By the way, we're trying to humanize AI agents. Life comes full circle. So we're trying to do that. You can click on the GenAI agent, and it actually tells you what it does. Without the GenAI agents, with the GenAI agents, and again, the foundation here is there of what we are trying to do in terms of provide risk in an automated way in putting things together. So that view around putting things, and how does that happen? Let me actually show you. Let me say OpenAI. Let me just try to add a brand new organization underscore Faircon, and it says autopilot mode. So we've achieved the mode where if you ever experienced Tesla full self-drive, or you've ever experienced Waymo, where you just enter the destination, hands off, and the car takes you there. That's the degree of automation, 100% automation that you've been able to get. How does that work? So I'm going to go here, I'll give my contact email, and I'll click here, and I'll click on Add Organization. So you can say activating public records agent. As it say, a user admin already exists. Please use different email ID because I already exist there. So add a new email, and I'm going to try. I'll just try it. Okay, let's try this. I'll just try something else. So the problem of doing a lot of demos. Organization with OpenAI exists. Okay, new underscore Faircon and this. Hopefully this will work now. Because there's already an organization by that name. So anyway, it's now activating 7 GenAI agents. All I have to do is give the domain name of OpenAI, is not too hard to find, and go ahead and actually start the thing with an email address. And if you saw, I'll enable the autopilot mode. So this is now going and finding all the information about OpenAI from the outside. Its leaked credentials, has it been hacked in the past or not? The trust center of OpenAI, we are downloading the SOC 2 reports from there. We're going ahead and actually scanning it from the outside, looking at the domains, subdomains, associated domains. We put all of that together, and the moment we put all of that together, it takes only 4 to 5 minutes. We are happening live as we speak. It will send me an email which basically looks like this. It says, initiate your assessment. We've been able to uncover 9,000 assets. There are 143 security findings that are found from the outside, and click on Start Assessment, and the moment you start assessment, it basically goes ahead and pre-fills the questionnaire of the company. So what it finds from the outside, and if OpenAI had to fill, because I was adding OpenAI as a third party, if it had to fill 150 questions, it automatically probably fills 70-60% of those questions, depending on what it finds from the outside. That's true intelligence. That is true automation. So we do that, and we put those questionnaires together, and then once you go inside that, you can now drag and drop any document, PDF, CSV, XLS, it reads that and fills in more questionnaires. So it's super simple. And by the way, all of this happens while you're doing that automatically. So while this is analyzing the risk, I will look at, and I will basically show you, say, something which is already onboarded. I go here. I just onboarded Okta. So you click here, it actually shows you different kind of interactions between the third party and first party, and it shows you, and these are all emails sent automatically. No human beings involved. So imagine the power where you just give the domain name of the third party, scanned everything, auto-answered stuff, send an auto-generated email to the third-party vendor saying, I've already answered this, do this particular thing, only these many questions are left. If they don't answer, it sends an auto nudge. If they finish their answer in the questionnaire and it's within the risk appetite calculated by FAIR, you don't have to do anything. If it's not, it comes out and says there's things to be done or there's work to be done. So this is live AI, agentic AI in action that you're able to see with Verinout Intel. So I'll quickly close my presentation in the next 1 minute. This is all agentic AI in action. I told you about the different Gen AI agents. We have more than 25 Gen AI agents. We release one every Monday with Verinout Intel. And by the way, if you want to test drive this, this is public because we thought when we have such a pretty product, we don't want people to not be able to experience it. We're probably the first SaaS company in the world to open up the entire product. So you can just go to testdrive.safe.security, and the product I just showed you, you'll be able to play around with it. You can add it to third parties and, see the whole thing. So the three big learnings which were there, let's not call it space CRQ, that's the curse of CRQ. Let's talk about decision making, and we're in the top of the value chain. The CISO, CIO, CFO boards care about what we do. Let's call it that. Let's not say CRQ. FAIR is to manage 360 degrees risk. Your risk, third-party risk, needs a common framework, and that's what we have. And AI has always been deep inside FAIR. If you do it right, that's what happens. The future of FAIR is really leaving the Rosetta Stone, which basically, Rosetta Stone was the casing between the ancient Egyptian language and the modern language of what we understand. That's exactly what FAIR is, from cyber noise to business clarity. We fuel, safe fuel the AI inside FAIR. And that is the reason why we are the market leaders, as you know, the number one risk quantification company in the world, or better, risk management company in the world. And that's what we do, unleash what FAIR always deserves. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day today.